Jason Van Dyke was released from prison. If you ladies and gentlemen did not know, Jason Van Dyke was a Chicago police officer, and he killed Laquan McDonald about maybe 5 or so years ago. He shot him 16 times, and he was convicted through community efforts. However, he was giving a light sentence. And in Illinois, you only have to serve half of your sentence before you are released. He was released on Friday. That was news to me. I did not understand the entirety of the story. So I'm having Tio Hardiman on as a guest so he can sort of break down the situation and explain to us the entirety of the situation. So can you give us a little bit of breakdown about what transpired that night? Jason Van Dyke shot McDonald 16 times?
Yes, what happened with Jason Van Dyke and his execution, murder of Laquan McDonald, was just horrific and very barbaric. I was one of the brothers, along with all the brothers and sisters in the activist community, that stood up against what Jason Van Dyke had done when he killed Laquan McDonald. But the thing is this, you had a cover-up. What was most important, it was a total cover-up. What happened is that Laquan McDonald, 16-year-old young African-American male, about to turn 17. He had a box cutter, was going in this like industrial area. He was slashing tires and stuff, which as an end result, the police were called. Several police arrived on the scene before Jason Van Dyke. And so Laquan was actually running away from the police. The narrative that went out is that Laquan had threatened Jason Van Dyke with the box cutter, but when the video was released, you could see Laquan was actually running away from the police.
What I just recently understood was, I believe I was speaking to my mother, or I was actually reading some news articles. It was said that Jason Van Dyke was actually one of the last officers on the scene, and that the other officers had actually had did they have the situation under control, or was he running? Like, how did those sorts of events all transpire? When he got there, did Laquan start running away? Like, what happened there?
Well, that's why initially Justice stated that Jason Van Dyke, when he arrived, there were a lot of police officers there already. So Jason Van Dyke arrived later on in the scenario, right? And so the other officers were doing their best to talk Laquan McDonald down and tell him to just, throw the box cutter down and just surrender, whatever the case may be. But Laquan decided to run and walk. He was skipping and hopping away from the police. He wasn't really running. He was skipping and hopping. So when Jason Van Dyke arrived on the scene, within seconds, he just jumped out his car and just started shooting Laquan McDonald, like just shooting him. Then he reloaded 16 shots. You had smoke coming off Laquan McDonald's body. This young man was not a threat to any police that were out there at all. And so once Jason Van Dyke had murdered Laquan McDonald, paperwork had to be turned in as far as what happened during that incident. A lot of police did not sign off on it. They signed off on the fact that Laquan was in the wrong, that he was trying to attack Jason Van Dyke. And there was a total cover-up that was exposed here in the city of Chicago. So that's what ended up happening. And we marched all over Chicago. There was a brother named William Calloway. He was one of the lead community activists that actually exposed the entire story. So I want to give him credit where it's due.
Okay, now I also heard that a lot of the shots were fired when McDonald was actually on the ground. Is that true?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. He had already shot him several times, and Laquan fell to the ground. He shot him, like I said, it was 16 shots all together. And when you look at the video, you can see smoke coming off the young man's body.
The organization that William Conaway led, what is the name of that organization? Is he particularly?
No, William Calloway, he has an organization called, he considers himself Christianaire. That's what he calls himself. But he didn't really have an organization at the time.
Okay,
he was just a concerned community leader.
At what point did he unravel the cover-up, the police cover-up of the Chicago Police Department?
Well, he connected with another guy that helped, a journalist that helped secure the release of the video. So you're going back to a few years back.
And this was before Jason Van Dyke was convicted, correct?
Yeah, this is before he was convicted.
So once they unraveled the cover-up, that's when Jason Van Dyke was brought to justice, basically.
Well, everybody needs to understand it was a significant cover-up because what happened, the Laquan McDonald's family actually took a payoff, some hush money to the tune of like $5 million. That's why you didn't see the family speaking out a lot. So they had already taken some hush money from the former Mayor Rahm Emanuel's administration. And you had a lot of preachers, aldermen, and a lot of people that were involved in the cover-up. So they never thought that this would get out to the level, it was on a higher level. The magnitude of Laquan McDonald's murder, it just reached a peak once the videotape was released, and all the people that took a payoff, all of a sudden they tried to come back over on the other side and join the movement.
Where did the money come from? Is there a way to find that out? Was that
no, it's public information.
City funds, or was that someone's personal funds? Where did the money come from?
No, it's public information. The city pays out money. Police are wrongfully accused or convicted breaking the law. The city pays out money, and that's the problem. Every time the city pays out, they feel that the situation will just disappear and be swept under the rug or something like that. So that's not what happened in this case.
So it sounds as if you're telling me that the local governments, the cities in particular, would rather pay out money when they know their officers have done wrong rather than try the actual officers.
Well, that's my point. That's exactly what happened in the case of Laquan McDonald. The city would pay the money and knowing they were wrong instead of reprimanding the officer. So the cover-up, we found out that a lot of the police reports were not right. They were not consistent with what took place when we looked at the videotape. Right. So that's why we say it's a cover-up from the floor up.
This is nothing new. I think that we sort of already understand this. Goes on more often than we'd like to believe, and it definitely is tragic. However, I'd like to discuss the possibility of rushed justice. I believe I was speaking to you last week and you said something about the activists and the families, or just the people that were speaking out on this tragedy. They may have rushed the process, or they may have possibly taken missteps, which led to such a light conviction on behalf of Van Dyke. Can you explain a little bit about that? Am I accurate in saying that?
What you have to understand is that here in Chicago, there's never been a time when a police officer was convicted of any type of crime in Chicago. It's been over 70 years since any police had been convicted on this level, all right? Like murder. You have some police that were convicted for selling narcotics, illegal drugs, but murdering somebody has been over 70 years. So what happened, there was such a frenzy and such a passion to secure conviction of Jason Van Dyke. I believe that a lot of the leaders overlooked the fact that he only was sentenced to 6 years in prison. And he only served about 3 years in actuality because he got out on good behavior as well. So now, and then also, like basically when the case was taking place, a lot of the activists I talked to now said that they actually pursued federal charges back then, but Donald Trump's administration took over, and that kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit because they were going to pursue federal charges, but things got, like I say, a little shaken up or whatever, and misdirected rather. And so now Jason Van Dyke was released after serving only 3 years, and nobody knows what jail he was serving his time in either. And it's like, he wasn't in none of the state prisons, so it's kind of crazy. He still got some kind of privilege, even though he was convicted of murder, right? Second-degree murder. And that's what people are really mad about, but he should have received at minimum 16 years. He shot the kid 16 times, maybe a life sentence. And you look at what happened to Chauvin in Minneapolis, he received a lot of time. Then he had to plead guilty to the federal charges as well in order to compound his time that he had to serve. So Jason Van Dyke really got away with a slap on the wrist.
Okay, that makes. What was he charged with? And at the very least, what do you think he should have been charged and convicted of?
Well, he was charged with second-degree murder, but you have to understand first-degree murder is premeditated murder, which means you planned it out and you just worked everything out in advance. Second-degree murder is basically not planned. That's the only difference. So I don't think he just planned to go out and kill Laquan McDonald. You could not find him guilty on first-degree murder. I believe second-degree murder was an appropriate charge. It's just the time that he received for it was not really it wasn't balanced out as far as the crime he committed. He should have received about at least minimum of 16 years, like I said.
The time did not fit the crime.
There you go.
And you're saying 16 years for 16 shots? Or
yeah, 16 years, because that's what should have happened to him.
Okay.
Because at least, he would have had at least complete 8 years of that sentence, if not 10 or 12 years. Because in Illinois now, you have to pretty much complete 85% of your sentence. And there used to be a time when he would complete 50% of his sentence. So I don't know how things changed in the situation with Jason Van Dyke.
Okay. Well, I think that you brought a lot of clarity to this situation. Is there anything you would like to add when wrapping up this topic of discussion?
Yeah, I would like to just say a lot of times people think that guys like myself and some of the community activists and leaders are against the police. We're not anti-police. We're anti-police brutality and excessive force. You do have some good police out there, working to serve and protect the community at large. But you have these knuckleheads like Jason Van Dyke. I guarantee you he wish he could just take that moment back, because you have to look at the collateral damage. His wife, his kids. Laquan is no longer here with us, with his family. So, you know, you have to think before you act a lot of times. Laquan McDonald was not a threat to Jason Van Dyke or anybody out there that day. So therefore, in the mindset of Jason Van Dyke, what was he really thinking? He probably saw this young black man, and a lot of times some police feel that young black men are a threat anyway, but there's no proof, positive information that you can point to that can show you that black men are a threat to the police, because black men are not attacking police like that here in our overall society. But there's a preponderance of evidence that police, mainly white police, are shooting and killing black men in particular, and it's unfounded basis, all right? And understand this too, because there's a twofold argument here. A lot of people say, well, African-American people are killing each other in record numbers, and the police don't kill that many African-American people. I understand that argument, but the police are paid to protect and serve. And also in Cook County, which Chicago is located in Cook County is the #1 county for wrongful convictions. So it goes beyond just shooting somebody. We have a lot of wrongful convictions. The failed war on drugs has to come into play when you talk about police corruption. So we have to do our best to eradicate police corruption. And the last thing I want to say, there was a federal consent decree that was handed down by the Department of Justice here in the United States for Chicago to have an oversight committee and change some of their policies. And to date in Chicago, that oversight committee has missed 70 benchmarks or deadlines for police reform in Chicago. So the beat goes on. We just had a young guy in Minneapolis, Amir, I think that's a young man's name. He was just killed at home. There was a no-knock warrant. The officers got a key to his house some kind of way. And then basically this young man, they were looking for somebody else, and they ended up shooting and killing this young man because he was a concealed carry gun owner. And when they came in his house, he didn't know what was going on. He reached for his gun, he was blasted. There's a lot of uproar and unrest in Minneapolis now about this situation. So the police have to learn.
Wrong person? They had the wrong person.
Yeah, they shot the wrong person, right.
They were at the wrong person's house.
Yeah, well, they may have been at the right house, but the wrong person, or the wrong house and the wrong person. Let me say that, but that's the initial story that just came out. And
it's true. Be reading the warrant then, huh?
Yeah, no-knock warrants. They need to eliminate or get rid of them no-knock warrants, because we had the young sister in Louisville, Kentucky. She was killed the same way, sleeping in the bed.
Well, I guess the idea is, how are you mixing up the houses?
Well, you know what happens.
That's not really the point. Police, I guess you're just saying is that the no-knock warrant doesn't give the person an opportunity to surrender. You just automatically thinking there's a threat on the other side of the door, and you just busting in, shooting first, asking questions later.
Let me say this: it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or Martian. Okay, when somebody comes to your house and you don't know what's going on, they open your door with a key or they bust your door in, the first thing you're going to do as a man is to do your best to defend your house. That's all you have is your house. That's your safety net, right? So by that being your safety net, you're going to defend that house no matter who comes through that door. So a lot of times the police have to be mindful of the fact that we all have to respect one another's safe place, man. They could have waited till the guy came outside they were looking for. I don't know what they were thinking. A lot of times people try to catch you off guard, but it doesn't turn out right. There's been too many stories where it just does not turn out right.